This video is about ergonomics. Ergonomics, firstly, it would be good to explain the definition of what ergonomics is. So ergonomics is basically the study of the man-machine interface. Now if we imagine that any product could be considered a machine, so let's say a cup is a machine, for example, a pencil is a machine, and the interface is our relationship with that machine, with that cup, with that pencil. Okay, so the study of how we interface with that product is the man-machine interface. It's how we use that product. Now ergonomics is making sure basically about three things. Okay, we want to make sure that our product that we're using is safe to use, our product is comfortable, and our product is basically easy to use as well. It makes sense, it's understandable. Okay, now ergonomics, if we want to make things easy to use and comfortable to use and safe to use, okay, is often linked to the study of anthropometrics. Now, anthropometrics, big word effectively, but if we break it down into anthro and metrics, okay, anthro is humans, okay, so the first part of the word, anthro, humans, and metrics, the second part of the word, is measurement. So anthropometrics, man measurements, or woman measurements, I suppose. Okay. Now, what people do if they want to make products ergonomic or easy to use, effectively, and safe to use, okay, they'll take various measurements from people's body shapes, body parts, effectively. So if we're making a cup, the measurements we'll probably take are probably from the hand. Okay, we'd also take perhaps measurements from where you'd also interface it, which is obviously putting it to your mouth. So you might be measuring or taking appropriate measurements from lips and things like this to make sure that when you put the cup to your mouth, it's comfortable and it's safe and easy to drink from. And also when you handle the cup, when you pick it up, when you place it down, when you open the lid, you twist it open, you close it, okay, these are all easy and safe to do as well. Okay, so as well as measurements of, like, if we talk about metrics in terms of size, so actually taking you know, millimeters, centimeters, that sort of thing, that sort of unit when we're measuring things, they could also be measurements of actual strength as well. So if we're thinking about the turning force required to put the lid on a cup, or the ability to be able to flick a lid of a, say, a travel mug open, for example, so that it's easy to do. Okay, these sort of strength measurements are also ergonomic considerations that we need to take into account, bearing in mind the anthropometric data we've taken into account as well. Okay, so the other thing we need to think about is obviously the consumer target that's actually going to be using the product. So anthropometric measurements will vary very much from person to person. If I'm making a cup designed for a child, the measurements that I take from their hand or their strength measurements are going to be very much different to those of a grown adult, a grown female, a grown male. Okay, and this is where the measurements will change greatly. If we talk about the area of fashion, for example, or clothing, you can already see there's so much anthropometric measurements being taken into account in terms of the sizing categories for clothes. So if we've got a size 6, a size 7, an 8, a 9, a 10, or whatever, or if we talk about shoe sizes, they've taken these anthropometric data and they've made them fit these consumers quite specifically. Okay, now the next thing to kind of think about when we're taking these measurements is percentiles. Okay, so in anthropometric measurements, we talk about the 5th percentile, the 50th percentile, and the 95th percentile. So what they'll probably do is take a group of people, let's say 100 people, okay, and they'll take measurements from these people. Now, what we'll generally consider, if we want to make the product kind of fit an average, we'll be looking at the average measurement. So this is the measurement that most people fit into. Okay, so if we talk about, say, shoe sizes, the average size for a male may be, say, a size 7 or a size 8. Okay, so that size 7 or size 8 would be the 50th percentile. It's the where most people would fit into. Okay, now if we go down the spectrum a little bit, so if we go down to the 5th percentile, these people might be a lot smaller or a lot weaker or a lot lighter than the average person, okay? So they will be right down the low end of the category. There might be a size 1 shoe for an adult male or something like that, which is quite small, okay? Now, we might want to consider these measurements, though, when we're making certain products that we need to cater for everyone. So if we're talking about maybe the height of a chair, we don't want to make it so the smallest people cannot reach the height of the chair, okay? And similarly, on the other side of the spectrum, the 95th percentile, when we're talking about particularly large human beings, okay, if we was designing something like a door frame, we don't want to make a door frame just 5'8" high, okay, the average height, okay, because anyone who's taller than that, which is quite a large group of people, we're talking about 49% of the population perhaps, okay, they're not going to be able to fit under that door without bending and scooping underneath it. Now, I'm talking about 5th to 95%. Well, what about the people who are in the 1 to 4 or the 96 to the 100%? So we're talking really, really tall people perhaps, or really, really small people. Well, unfortunately, if we talk about the most products, okay, these people are just not catered for very well, okay? So if you take an example of perhaps a basketball player, you may find even though the average door height is aimed at very tall people, about 6'6", maybe even 6'8", they still might have to bow their head if they're maybe 7 foot tall to get under that door, okay? Or, for example, if we're talking about a very, very small person and they're sitting on a chair, for example, you might find their legs do not reach the bar at the bottom to actually comfort themselves, or they might have struggles trying to lift themselves into the chair itself. And obviously these groups are called special groups, okay? They might be specially catered for, and that's why there's sort of so many sites where you can buy sort of specially tailored clothes for particularly large people, or indeed particularly small people as well, okay? Other examples of special groups might be, for example, the disabled or the young, okay, where they have very specific requirements and they don't follow the path of the sort of the norm, or the 50th percentile, or even the 5th to 95th percentiles.